This is a major story we're starting with today. Republicans have been caught in a series of presentations, audio recordings, and PowerPoints, openly planning to win elections, not by actually winning the hearts and minds of voters and getting people to the polls and winning elections in a real way. They've been caught planning to win by a strategic and concerted effort to just contest ballots, to claim fraud. And this plan in and of itself is a form of voter fraud. We are going to listen to the recordings. We are going to look at what we have learned. And one of the things that I said back in 2020, when 6 months before the November 2020 election, Donald Trump and others started saying, oh, it's going to be fraud. He would say fraud. He would say the paper ballots, the mail-in ballots, absentee, it's all fraudulent. They're going to try to take it. It's going to be insecure. And what I said at the time was, at some point in the future, they are actually going to attempt massive voter fraud, and we're going to call them out. And then they're going to say, oh, come on, you're the guys who said there was no fraud when we were pointing to the fraud in 2020. And that is happening right now, because remember, with Republicans, with the modern right wing in the United States, every time they make an allegation, we should consider and explore whether it's actually a confession of something they're planning to do. Oh, Hillary can't be trusted with sensitive information. Trump's eating documents, flushing documents, and stealing documents to Mar-a-Lago. When they say the left is doing something, the first question we should ask is, are they actually the ones doing this? Is that how they think it's something someone might do because they are the ones doing it? So they are conspiring to win elections, by contesting ballots of Democrats, not by actually convincing people to vote for them. Explosive Politico report. It's going to be an army. Tapes reveal Republican plan to contest elections. Placing operatives as poll workers and building a hotline to friendly attorneys are among the strategies to be deployed in Michigan and other swing states. This is incredibly important stuff to know about now, because if we're not ready to fight this, they could get away with it. Think about, thank goodness they didn't get away with it in 2020. But you could argue that it was a trial run and that they're going to try again. And there's every indication they're going to. Heidi Prisbilla for Politico, quote, video recordings of Republican Party operatives meeting with grassroots activists provide an inside look at a multi-pronged strategy to target and potentially overturn votes in Democratic precincts. They're targeting the Democratic precincts. Install trained recruits as regular poll workers and put them in direct contact with party attorneys. The plan, as outlined by a Republican National Committee staffer in Michigan, includes utilizing rules designed to provide political balance among poll workers, to install party-trained volunteers prepared to challenge voters at Democratic majority polling places, developing a website to connect workers to local lawyers, and establishing a network of party-friendly DAs who could intervene to block vote counts at certain precincts. So here's the strategy, okay? Most polling places, generally speaking, have a system for poll workers and poll watchers. Most of those systems are designed that there be partisan balance. You can't have all Democrats watching a polling place, or all Republicans. The idea would be you have a partisan balance, but these are all just kind of good faith people who are there genuinely to make sure that everything is being done in the correct way. The Republican plan is to take advantage of the rules which say you have to have some Democrats and some Republicans. There has to be balance, and to train the Republican poll workers to understand how to disproportionately challenge Democratic votes by virtue of being in overwhelmingly Democratic precincts, in order to have balance on paper. Listen, we've still got Democratic poll workers and Republican poll workers. It's all fine. But the Republican poll workers that are there not to make sure everything is on the up and up, but they are there because these are left-leaning precincts where they are going to try to help Republicans by challenging votes that will statistically be more likely to be Democratic rather than Republican votes. Being a poll worker, you just have so many more rights and things you can do to stop something than as a poll challenger. So again, the idea here is don't have them there as the obviously partisan poll challengers, have them there just as regular poll workers who are going to say they're seeing funny business. We have audio recordings. Let's take a listen to one.
Understand that we are upset with the 2020 results, but we cannot just look at the 2020 results, or else the exact same thing will happen in 2022. We need volunteers on the ground on election day, ahead of election day, working so that that fraud does not happen again. If we only look at 2020, it just will happen.
I worked the polls the last election, and not only were we extremely poorly trained, I mean badly trained, but when we caught them cheating, and I caught them cheating, they had a pre-planned thing that they did. They would swarm you, they blocked you from seeing things, they accused you of doing things that you weren't doing, and then they would go like this and have the police come and escort you out.
So that's why we're here now today, 13 months ahead of election day, as opposed to 1 month ahead of election day. So if I could ask everyone just to listen to Matt.
And by the way, the reason that they're saying 13 months is the recordings from October. These recordings were just recently published. So they're talking about October 2021, 13 months before this coming November election. This plan is for the November election.
Let him go through his presentation. That we all can hear, and then we can ask questions afterwards. That would be greatly appreciated.
But seriously, though, that's why we're on the ground, like Rob said, so early, is to address exactly that, right? The Democrats, and I'm just going to go off script and probably not even follow it, so I'm just going to address myself right away. So we are trying to recruit, truly, it's going to be an army, right? We are going to try to recruit lawyers. We're going to have more lawyers than have ever been recruited, because let's be honest, that's where it's going to be fought, right? We're going to have lawyers that work early to build relationships with different judges, so that when that happens, we're going to have lawyers that have relationships with the police chiefs in the different areas, with the police
chief, So you're going to have install Republican bad faith poll workers to contest ballots, have them be in touch with lawyers, and the lawyers know the police chiefs, so maybe they can even involve police in helping to skew the elections in their favor.
In the different areas, so that when that happens, those pre-existing relationships are already established, so that they can't lie, or so that they can. I've talked with so many people that work at the TCF Center, and that I've heard that happens. It happened, right? No one is it happened, and it's wrong that it happened. It's 100% wrong that it happened, and we're going to address it. We're going to address it by having the lawyers on the ground. We're going to address it by trying to have this.
So the plan is as follows. In most places, in many places, we'll talk about Detroit, Michigan, because this is one place that this is becoming a very big deal. The poll workers have to be selected from names submitted by each of the parties. Great. So we know that Detroit is a particularly blue part of Michigan. So if you want to skew a state election, you don't know whether a particular voter is a Republican or a Democrat. So you say, okay, well, listen, if Michigan as in general is I don't know what the numbers are. Imagine it's a 52-48 state or a 55-45 Democratic leaning state. But you know, Detroit is like 75% Democratic. Great. So what you do is you train a bunch of people to be poll workers who know the process for contesting ballots, say that I don't believe that this is a valid voter. You force them to have to submit a contested ballot, which then has to be adjudicated, and on and on and on. You train them up. And then the list that the Republican Party submits in Detroit, right? They don't have to do this everywhere. You say, we're going to target Detroit because that's where we can make a difference. It's so many Democrats. We'll try to fight the validity of Democratic ballots for no particular reason other than they're Democrats. The list that you submit in Detroit to the county, to the election clerk or the Detroit official that chooses the poll workers, is all these people who have been trained in bad faith, not to prevent fraud, but to try to get votes in Detroit thrown out, which are overwhelmingly likely to be Democratic votes. And so then that's how you skew the results. You let the vote happen in other parts of Michigan that are more 50-50, or even the rural parts of Michigan, which skew Republican. But in Detroit, you send this army of poll workers who are actually bad faith, sort of like undercover political operatives, to try to get Democratic votes discounted. And they've got lawyers ready. They claim they're going to have police chiefs ready. Now, what is happening here is that to win, they increasingly must cheat, at least apparently. Well, why would that be? It's because on the issues, the country is moving more and more to the left. They're losing on the issues. OK, and by the way, I encourage you to listen to these recordings in full. There's an 8-minute recording from an October 5th election integrity training. And then there's another 14-minute recording of a Zoom meeting. And you will very quickly understand the strategy, which we have more or less explained here. If Democrats wait until after it happens, it's going to be too late. And it's really important to understand how monumental the outcome of these midterms will be. Because in 2020, they had a bunch of different strategies they tried. It was the national, can Pence overturn it, alternate slates of electors, objections on January 6th, all these different things. More than 60 court cases which failed, trying to prevent mail-in and absentee ballots. They had all these different things. It didn't work, but it could have. And now they're going to refine the strategy. And 2022 is going to be a test of how much closer can we get to just controlling the election results by using these techniques, so that in 2024, we might be able to just get a president that didn't really win installed in the White House. And there's a second layer to that. It's not just testing the techniques. It's also, can we use the techniques in 2022, we being them? Can we use the techniques in 2022 to get enough control over state positions, including secretaries of state and governors, etc., so that those individuals will be in power in November of 2024 to maybe do what Trump wanted Brad Raffensperger and Brian Kemp to do in Georgia, for example. Remember that?
I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break.
It didn't happen in Georgia. But what about Doug Mastriano in Pennsylvania? Doug Mastriano, the now winner of the Republican gubernatorial primary in Pennsylvania, he's a big lie supporter. And he's worse than that, by the way, if you look at his background. He might be willing to do the things Trump wanted them to do in Georgia in 2024 if he's the governor. So what if they use these techniques to get Mastriano in 2022 so that he will be in power to do this stuff in 2024? We cannot understate the importance of these midterms. So should everyone vote? Of course, that's number one. But the Democratic Party had better be ready to fight this. Now, do they have to fight fire with fire, meaning just set up Democratic poll workers to try to do this exact same thing in Republican areas? Well, number one, I think that that's going low. So I don't think that's the way to do it. And number two, by its nature, because Republicans are more predominant in rural areas with lower populations, Democrats are at a structural disadvantage. Republicans can focus their bad faith poll workers in the densely populated areas. For Democrats to fight that, they would need way more poll workers because you would need them in way more precincts because they're going to be more rural precincts. So it's both a bad idea and a difficult idea logistically because of that. So Democrats need to come up with something. And I don't know what the answer is. I just learned about this story yesterday. I'm still thinking about it. But it is looking very, very rough. Let me know what you think. Find me on Twitter at @dpacman. And Tuesday, June 14th at 6 p.m. will be the next David Pakman Show Town Hall. It'll stream live on the Pakman Live YouTube channel. I'll have more information on that between now and then. One of our longtime sponsors is Vincero Collective. If you don't know Vincero yet, it's the place to go for quality watches, sunglasses, and more. Serious style, undeniable quality, and total versatility put Vincero really at the top of the game, and their newest watch release is no exception. It's the Argo Automatic. It spotlights everything I love about Vincero. I got the Argo Automatic in frost white. This is a dive watch, which is, of course, a staple in the watch world, but I really think Vincero found a way to make this one stand out. I love the gradient blue accent of the hour markers against the solid white face. I really love all of their watches, and I own a bunch, but the Argo is probably my favorite so far. Vincero sunglasses and jewelry and other accessories are awesome too. An excellent way to elevate any outfit. Vincero Collective is giving my audience 15% off all products and free shipping. Go to vincerocollective.com/Pakman and use the code Pakman. The link is down below.